Let's try it again. Take 3. Okay. Not looking actually too encouraging right now. Yeah, I'm dropping 60% of my frames, and I'm only running at 30 frames a second. Let's see. Doing a bit better. Let me pop the chat window out. Boy. Okay, well, right now, 11:24 p.m., YouTube is showing an excellent connection. I seem to have decent frames on OBS, so let's roll with it. Okay. Third time's a charm, I hope. You never know with these things, you know. So there's a few things tonight that I'm going to be doing that are unique. And they're also kind of a little technical, and so I'm not sure how they're going to work with my current setup as far as my current internet connection, the current laptop, and so on. Basically, I want to try to take live calls and do readings, you know, with live calls opposed to just the chat window, and see how that works, to see if there's actually anything there with the current solution that I am testing. So if it does work out, then great, and I'll share the idea, and if it doesn't work, then I don't know, back to the drawing board. In the meantime, I started this channel up a couple of years ago with the intent of increasing the amount of people that I could connect with to spread this art of tarot, really of divination, but tarot as the main modality. And you know, it's been a pretty trying couple of years, and for that reason, it's taken a little bit of time to kind of get the channel back up and running, and it's time to do that. And so we'll try some of these things, like for instance the call-ins, and you know, some weekly readings for each individual sign, which is something that I've done for like forever for clients, customers, but haven't really done it in a general sense. And I thought, why not? I mean, it's not too time consuming to put together some interesting content related to each sign on a weekly basis. One of the goals is to really bring light to some of the complexities and to make them more accessible, like making something that's complicated easy, or trying to sort of take away the pageantry and the things that make it confusing, and rather make it accessible. That said, it ultimately comes down to how some of these things work. If we have any success with some of these ideas, then it's something we'll continue to do and grow it, and hopefully it can organically actually turn into a community, which is really the goal. I mean, there's real truth in the fact that power, it not only increases with numbers, but increases exponentially. And that also includes when an individual is on their path. The experience is accelerated by sharing that walk. And obviously there's things that need to occur within oneself that are very personal and don't require, actually are hindered by others, but not in most cases. In most cases, the journey is a much smoother process together. So that's my goal here, is to grow with you and to help you grow at the same time. So that said, the first deck that I'm using tonight is an older deck. This is the Hanson Roberts Tarot. Let me zoom in on the desk here. Hanson Roberts is a Smith clone. And so you'll notice that the artwork is very indicative of the Rider-Waite Pamela Coleman Smith symbolism, and is definitely artistically influenced by that as well. But however, the artwork is very I found iconic in a way, and is also very dioramic. I think it really is indicative of sort of like a everything is close up, everything is zoomed in, and the backgrounds are usually very layered, and so it has that dioramic kind of vibe. But at the same time, it's sort of very true to the typical Rider-Waite Smith system, which is basically therefore the Golden Dawn sort of Kabbalistic system of tarot, at least within the symbolism. But some of her choices as an artist, I think, are really interesting. and kind of make it a little more accessible. So, one example, like if in the Rider Waite for this card here, or most, but it's a much more wide artwork, and in this case, the person zoomed in. The cups that are spilt are right in front and center. The cups that aren't spilt are appropriately symbolically behind or outside of the person's line of sight. But it's the whole image is close. Same with the Nine of Swords, one of the more memorable or iconic images in the tarot. The person sitting on a bed with their head down in sorrow, and the Nine Swords, and so forth. But it gives it kind of a more personal feel, I think, when you have this close-up artwork. And also, just stylistically, her art has almost a colored pencil vibe. I'll see if I can find a good example that you can see that. This is the Queen of Cups. I'm not sure if that's visible in the, maybe not, perhaps in the shading in her face. But there's some cards it's more obvious than others, but it has this kind of quality to it that it reminds me almost of like a pencil, colored pencil kind of. Actually, if you look, for instance, on the top of this area here where it's rounded, it almost kind of has that vibe. Yeah. And what an interesting back to a tarot card deck. Isn't that an interesting back? I guess it follows the rules for the diehards. It's reversible, so you can't tell if the card is reversed or upright. All right, so it's got that going for it. But just the color choices and the sort of organic nature, but at the same time, there's something interesting about the colors that almost dates it. But so this is the deck I'm going to be starting with tonight. It's the Hanson Roberts deck, and again, it's based on the Rider Waite system. And we're jumping through different decks as we go through the evening, and you'll see that very much in the same way that tone of voice changes how you're perceived. Your tone of voice even if you're writing or reading the same words, can completely be interpreted differently. It's the same as, for instance, a font. Changing a font can completely change the meaning, the feeling of the words. It's the same idea with the decks. The artwork and the overall style that the artist uses to convey the symbolism is almost to that degree. Like it's the font of the deck, and it changes the overall feel. And so as we go through some of these decks tonight, and I do these readings with these different decks, you'll see that the attitude, the personality, the identity of the spirit of the deck, so to speak, the zeitgeist of the 78 members of this community that we call a tarot deck. And each deck has its own culture and its own subcultures. And so it's a really interesting kind of exercise as we go through the readings tonight. I'll be bringing that up as we go along. And so I guess we should start with maybe let's let's do a quick 3-card spread looking at what to expect the next several days. As it relates to, what's an interesting topic? Well, there's so much going on in the political arena right now. There's so much going on in the social, global. How about this? Let's just say, is there anything that we need to worry about or know within the next several days that is going to have a global impact, positively or negatively? When I say next several days, I basically mean the immediate future. So global impact, immediate future. Let's see what we can see here. Let's give it a couple more. I'm not feeling like it's ready. And quickly, let's put, throw a couple of cards down. Let's put something in the chat real quick here. Please subscribe. To chat. And okay, great. Is there any way to pin to the top? There we go. All right, so there we go. Great. Okay. So these 3 cards here are basically the immediate global future. Is there anything that we need to know that's going to have a global impact in, say, the next, several days or a week? And let's see. Yep. Wow. So this is zoom in on this real quick. Okay, so global impact next several days to a week. This is interesting. We do have 1 major, 2 minors, both pentacle. And interesting, we have 2 very opposite energies here. We have this person is you could call it wealthy, but that's not the word. This person is entitled. This person is imagine being so rich that you just sort of walk through your little garden and it's the best way to put that within the context of this particular reading. Basically, you have the elite. Let's just put it that way. Now here you have the opposite, the pauper, the injured, the poor. And here you have justice. Justice means a couple of things. Astrologically, it's pretty clear what that means. I mean, there's the scales. Uh, but it does mean a lot of other things within the context of the question or the subject, and in this particular case, globally. So, justice can really mean several things here. We have the disparity between the elite and the poor, but another way to interpret this card rather than poor, which is kind of where I'm feeling right now, is illness. Not just COVID, but now we've got monkeypox in the United States, and it's not at pandemic levels, it's not even at endemic levels, but it is getting out of control, especially within certain populations. And one way to interpret this card within that context would be ignoring it. It's sort of not caring. So you have illness, people sitting back not doing what should be done, and one interpretation of the word justice, which is, I think, a very good one that is very often overlooked in tarot, is instead of justice, another word for that might be effect. There's cause, there's effect, there's decision, there's justice. So justice does not mean punishment. Justice means equals. It's the equal sign. It's what occurs due to your actions, whether you're adding, subtracting, whatever the case may be. Another word for justice would be the outcome that is correct. An incorrect outcome would be injustice, or a 1 + 1 = 3 would be an injustice. Which is actually kind of funny because, I meant that metaphorically, but that's kind of very indicative of our current financial system. That said, though, basically what we have here is, I'm going to throw a couple of cards on this right here just to expand on that. What this particular justice is referring to. I would say, let's give it 2 cards. And I'm going to put one in between these two to kind of be the bridging of what is the thing that's underlying, bridging, connecting these two. Let me zoom in on that again. These two. Wow. Okay. So, for anyone who's joined us, after I started this particular reading is asking the question, is there anything that we need to know with respect to the global environment over the next several days to a week, like the immediate future. And the three cards that came out are these two, which is sort of like the rich, lackadaisical, or like the powerful that do nothing, and then the poor, the injured, the ill, the sick, and then justice. We talked about the fact that justice really ultimately means the outcome. There is your decisions, and then there's what comes from that, and that's another definition for justice. Now, I decided to expand on that. So the thing that's between, that's connecting these two cards, these two groups, is the Five of Swords. One way to look at the Five of Swords is you have these people in the back looking at this person in the front. This person in the front is sort of like a figure of authority, right? He's got the armor, his helmet's shiny, his gloves are clean. These people look a little more ragged, like they've been around, they're working people, they're not this person. And he is holding swords, and the way he's grabbing them, it's almost like he's collecting them, like he's the tax collector. I've seen this card in a lot of decks, almost like a case of bullying, and you have to kind of say, well, who's the one doing the bullying and who's the one being bullied, and that's a different circumstance based on the person asking the question and the subjects. And in this case, there isn't a person asking the question. This is just a general sort of question. And so I'm going to interpret this as basically that being, I do get the vibe that this represents kind of like the government, of those in power, the elite. This is the sick people, call it COVID, call it monkeypox, the veterans, and what just occurred as far as this bill that was decided not to be passed as a form of punishment, some nonsense. It's that whole concept of this us and them, and the person in power is sort of like taking the swords away. And then here you have, expanding on the justice, the Star and the Devil. And these cards, especially the way they came out, the order that they came out, is I think really important. Here you have, and this is so huge for this card, these two people, and they're in a bad place, right? They're being punished and so on. But now there's an important detail, and virtually every deck, including this, gets this right. They are chained by their necks. However, though that chain is loose, it can actually be taken off at any time. In fact, it's almost like the elephant who's been trained that if he tries to leave, he can't, because his arm is chained to the ground, and eventually the elephant realizes, I guess I can't leave, and so you could tie that elephant with a stick in the ground and a piece of string, and he won't even try to leave because he doesn't even think he can. Same idea. These two people can at any time take that chain off their neck and leave. And so this card does not, in this case, represent the devil per se. It represents those people being in a state of control, but also in a state of potentially recognizing that they can leave that control at any time. And then you have right next to it the Star. And the Star really, in this particular case as well, but in a lot of cases, represents that idea of opening your eyes, enlightenment, growth. More importantly, too, on a much more sort of esoteric level, realizing your potential. And I don't mean that in the new age sense of working out really good and having a healthy body and mind and all. Obviously, those are important, but I mean your potential from the respect of the fact that you are a star. You're an infinite point of light occupying a body, and what your actual full potential is the ability to, instead of occupying the body, occupying the universe as a consciousness, and that is what this person has done. That's what that ecstatic look is on her face, and so forth. So what this represents in its current state is the justice, meaning the outcome, is people waking up and taking off their ropes, realizing who they are, and enlightenment is the outcome of that. And so that's the reading for the week that pertains to every human being on planet Earth. That is a global message. The global message, the message right now is anytime you want, the chain that's around your neck can be lifted. It's up to us to do that. Authority, by definition, is given, not taken. Stop giving it. So, that is the Hanson Roberts. I'm going to try another deck right now. This is the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. This is not a tarot deck. It is an oracle. And I'm not 100% sure when that word started with respect to these cards, because it seems to colloquially be used as a term for not tarot, but a card form factor divination tool, and that's inappropriate. I think that there are many ways of utilizing the system of cartomancy that aren't tarot related, that aren't oracle based. And I think a lot are kind of called an oracle. I think that it's an oracle if it's used that way. I think what makes something an oracle is the meaning that you give it by your behavior, by how you use it. Do you address it with questions? Then it's an oracle. Google is an oracle. Siri is an oracle. That's just semantics. In this particular context, it's an oracle because it's not tarot. But what this is it's an astrology deck. It's actually put together pretty darn tight. Because what they've done is they've taken basically the planetary meanings. Let me give you an example. How about that one? Sounds good. And the signs, the planets and the signs, and gives us a keyword related to that, which, interestingly, that keyword in a lot of cases within the system of astrology, let me zoom in here, is Kabbalistically derived. It is a form of Hermetic magic. Rather, not Kabbalistic, Hermetic. So, but anyway, that said, what a great idea, just to sort of simplify that concept. And this particular deck, one of the reasons that I'm drawn to it as much as I am is that I agree with their interpretations in most cases, and I really am a fan of what they've done here. The moon in Capricorn, practicality. Come on. That's just a bullseye. This is a beautiful card. This is just great. I mean, let's take a look at this for a minute. Venus. Okay, that's it. Do we have it? Okay, good. Yeah. Venus and Scorpio. Discrimination. And the picture is of this fancy person out in their world, loving their beautiful butterflies. Discrimination does not necessarily mean hatred. It can mean indifference, ignorance, willful ignorance. It can mean a lot of things, but I don't know, just love that. Just great. The moon in Sagittarius. Great deck. Let's give this a quick shuffle. Seems like there is a pretty intense lag between reality and when it hits the stream, which, you know, I understand that that's going to be the case, but I didn't realize it was going to be that long. I just assumed that the latency would help the stream a little bit. So this next card sure can. Hello, Jeff. I have a couple of different things that I'm doing tonight. So it depends upon the type of reading that you're looking for. I'm sort of working out some kinks in the process as I form the new channel. This particular deck actually is not one that I would use for a reading. Grab an actual tarot deck real quick and we can go there. tell you about Jackie. She's my wife, okay? Okay. That sounds like a woman. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's take a look. So, let's look at, let me jump to the table here. Let's do a quick past, present, future about the situation, and then we can expand on that a little bit if we'd like. So, the present situation you've kind of have already illustrated, but let's just take a look at that anyway. Oh, okay. Well, that's a bullseye. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, there you have it. I mean, but I'll expand on that in just a moment. But so that this is the present situation. The past situation is going to be a very general card related to the influences behind it, not who's at fault or anything like that. Or it's going to be more of what was the overall energy. And again, we can kind of take a look at that more specifically if you'd like. Okay. Wow. All right, so what we've got here is the Four of Wands and the Knight of Swords. As far as reversals are concerned, I don't typically use them. The Four of Wands is kind of like a celebration. It's a marriage, a party, a graduation, a gathering. So I would say that, and typically the past in this situation, we're going to be referring to kind of more of like the immediate past. So this isn't like some overall years long thing. This is like the immediate past. And the vibe that I'm getting here is that there was some type of gathering, and at that gathering, some things occurred. Something was seen, said, heard, or something that lit up the situation. The future, and I'm going to look at that a little further in a sec here. The future shows the Knight of Sword can represent various things. The Knight is very active or proactive. The sword, even just as the element itself or as the suit, is an active element, right? It's an element of it is used. It is you pick up a sword with the intent of using it, and it has a purpose. It's not like, for instance, something more passive. He's in a state of motion is another very important component here with respect to that. And his position, the knight being rather than the king or the queen, he's in the inferior position. Sometimes that leads to why the individual is acting out Sometimes the Knight of Sword can be sharp with words. Typically, the sword is the person who uses intellect as a weapon, as opposed to, say, the wand, which would use physical. This is a person who's more cruel verbally, um, especially in a fight. And this, this is I see that vibe going on. I don't know if this is you or her, but that's one of them. Hello, Cage. Thanks for joining. So let's take a look at that. First, I'm just going to take a quick look at the gathering here and see what we're talking about. Then we're going to look at this, and is this you or her, and what's the circumstance there? And let's zoom in on that just a little further. Okay. Okay. So, the gathering, the party, something else. Now that we have some context, I'm going to tweak that a little bit, and I'm going to call that something related to money or business. Money was involved. The Ten of Rod also is sort of, it's a card of work, but right before the reward that work will provide. So I see some type of there was multiple people involved, whether it's a group thing or this could even have meant someone died and there was a problem with the inheritance, but someone did all the work while that person was passing, and now there's a jealousy. That's one example of this idea of there being finances and work related. Like somebody did a lot and is expecting something from that. They put in more than the other. There, but there was a kind of a group situation. As far as this individual, this is the future. We have the Hierophant. The Hierophant can mean a couple of things, but one of the things that it means quite often, just as a general energy, is the status quo. It means the institution. Right? It's like it's religion, but it's not. It's also government. It's also the holders of our worldview. What we have here is the Queen of Wands is a powerful figure. A figure of... Let me zoom back out. I don't want you to miss that. There. This figure is... in a favorable position compared to the Knight. Obviously, the Queen is higher up than the Knight. And is... quite comfortable, very confident, not, what's the word I'm looking for here, feels in control, feels like there's a level of control there, but there's also a level of, like the sword is more intellectual and verbal, this is more emotional and physical. So what I would say with respect to the future of this situation is I don't initially see it as something that will last. As far as what I mean by that is that people don't generally change unless there is something dramatic to make that change. This situation is something that the immediate future is something that I think maybe can be clarified a bit. And I'm going to put these cards like this. Just take a quick look at that. It's interesting that these are both court cards and a major. Yeah, you know what? I really see divorce. And it looks like, unfortunately, that there is a level of her coming out advantageous in that situation. Yeah. So I hope that... All right, Jeff, does that make sense? You know, obviously, there's an important thing here whenever you're talking about the future. And that is that nothing is written but the past. The future is not written, at least from our perspective. You know, from our perspective, we are stuck on that linear experience, and so, you know, it's the possibility to make change. You know, I don't want to say cheating. I can say, you know, I don't see it lasting. That's a totally different question. Like, that's a, you know, and, you know, oftentimes, and I don't know the situation between you two directly, but oftentimes, you know, asking them that question and just be, you know, looking for an upfront answer, sort of like, you know, hey, let's just cut through the emotion, let's cut through the nonsense, let's talk about this thing that we built together with our children and our lives. Are you with somebody? I mean, I can, if you'd rather not go that route and you want to look into that situation, you know, that's a different story. But so yeah. Well, that's another quality that I would definitely say is present in this circumstance. There is a little bit of a sense of a betrayal. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, that, I mean, if you've said that and you've kind of expressed where you are, I would say, generally speaking, as if nothing were to change right now, the direction is not looking good for the relationship lasting. If you'd like, we can do like a more expanded thing. Like, again, we can do like a full spread. A full spread is typically a good way to get like right down into the core of a question, because it is directed at that question from multiple angles. it's kind of like if you can imagine taking the energy of a circumstance and almost like a prism, breaking it out into all of its constituent frequencies. The same idea here, only what we're doing is breaking them out into their separate contexts, because obviously the world's very different from your perspective and hers compared to if there is another person involved in the situation from theirs, and so on. So as of right now, let me take a look at something here real quick. It looks like everything is doing okay. When I first began streaming tonight, I had some unfortunate tech issues that seem to have cleared up. I don't know if I was dropping like crazy frames and it wasn't really working out well. So it seems like everyone's having a better experience. I hope. And so, I still have a little bit of time to do a couple, so I guess before we have a little list going on here. Oh, no problem, Jeff. And again, if anytime you want to pop in and do something, or if you want to book, in the description I have a couple links if you wanted to talk a little further, like a one-on-one, and get really, really deep. You know, those readings can go in a number of different directions as far as the subject matter, what's talked about, how deep we get into certain subjects, and so just, you know, give it a look. Hello, Jasmine. So, we have a couple of different things going on here. We have one, two, Alright, so we have, I gotta make a little thing going. I was only gonna be going for a couple more minutes, so I'll just run through some quick ones if everybody doesn't mind. So, after Jeff so there was another question here. Let me go back. Let's see, was this Sahil? Then there was... okay. And then what's that line? And Jasmine. Okay. All right. So this is the list as of this moment, and actually I'm gonna close the list. So let me do that. Okay. So Sahil, if you're still in the room, say hey, and I'll do a quick one for that question. If you are not here, then go ahead and type that you're not here, and don't worry, I'll wait. No, but I'm kidding. So if he doesn't answer soon, then we'll jump to the next on the list. Sahil, if you are here, let me know, and if not, then we're going to move on. Eliza Fatima. What a name. Wow. Okay, so, Sahil Kanakari? Okay, Sahil, 5, 4, 3. All right, Mickey. Mickey, what's up? How you doing? Okay, did you already type your question? Yes, you did. All right. Okay, what did Zach from... Okay, no problem. Let's switch up decks. Alrighty. Okay, let me do a just a quick list update. Okay, great. Alrighty. Okay, so Mickey, all right. Mickey, I like that name. That's funny. My name is Michael, and Mickey's the name that I use for other people named Michael. So if you're a buddy of mine and your name is Michael, I usually call them Mickey. So let's see here. This particular deck I'm using is the Tarot of the Abyss. It is a very beautiful deck by an artist called Anatorian. I feel very lucky I was able to get my hands on one. It's a little unique if you're not used to tarot, or even if you are actually, because it's black and white and it's sort of line art in black and white, but it's very beautiful. Okay. Okay, what we have is the Two of Swords. Again, this is for Mickey. The question is related to Zach. Zach was unsure how to feel. Zach actually kind of was going a couple of ways. There was more, there's more one direction than the other direction, but Zach kind of didn't know how to feel at the moment and was kind of in a place of like, like, what am I supposed to, like, another way to put that would be when you kind of have to say something to somebody that's hard to say, and so you try to dance around it, or you're not sure if you should even broach the subject. That's one of the things, like there was something going on in his head that was preventing honest communication. So let's take a look at maybe, you know, let's zoom in on it a little further. What that is, or if something influenced that. Okay, interesting. So here's what we have. The Lovers, which is, I love her interpretation of that card as two trees kind of together. I love that. That's just great. And then the Hanged Man, or the Hanged One, in this particular card. Typically it's a person hanging upside down. In this case, this interpretation is you're the one hanging upside down, and so you're seeing the card, you know, obviously. There's the land and the birds and the sky, right? So it's you are the hanged person one. That card typically refers to a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is willful. It's not accidental. It was decided and chosen. There's a couple of ways to interpret that, but and here what you're talking about is the relationship, the friendship, the partnership. So there's like an unsure kind of which side do I show? What how, you know, how do I say this thing that I want to say but I can't, or that I'm not sure how far I could take the conversation without either risking humility or you know, losing the, you know, there's something hidden there, something going on. Um, I'm not sure if this makes any sense to you. Um, the sacrifice. One question to ask about this is, who made the sacrifice? So this makes sense now. Then I just looked up at your chat. Um, okay, so there was more to it that wasn't said, and there's a fear for that. You know, as far as the sacrifice, I really feel the need to expand on that, and so I'm just gonna do that. Um, wow. Okay, that's strong mojo. The High Priestess and a Chariot, they're both majors. They came up right next to each other. With respect to the Hanged Man, which is, these are like all major. This is crazy. Um, so the sacrifice was related to movement or motion or some type of didn't move or didn't act when they could have. And the High Priestess is a at least within the context of this reading. Obviously, this card means a lot. All the majors are so heavy that I'm not even going to go there. But basically, this idea is in order to, with the attempt to, all right, okay, here it is. The person who made the sacrifice, the intent was to take the high road in order to avoid a stressful situation, and so they moved on. So does that make sense? Like, there's much more that needs to be said that wasn't said, and that's what the sacrifice was. The sacrifice was not speaking or holding back things for fear that it would escalate the situation, not be received properly, whatever the case may be. There was fear there. And the sacrifice was in order that the emotional stability stay level. Action was stymied. So the lesson here is that it gives you the opportunity to go back to Zach and say, hey, listen, you know, I know that you were probably kind of feeling conflicted about talking to me, and what you need to do is to sort of like let go of all that, throw away both masks, and just be who you are, and just tell me what you're feeling without fear, you know? Always they do. Hidden feelings cause pressure on your emotional system. You know, you have to release it or it builds pressure. And, you know, we've got enough feelings going on without the ones we're stuffed in getting in the way. Like, let them go. But what I would say is that if you want to have a more open and a more honest conversation, you could even just use the fact that this reading occurred as permission to do that. You know, like, hey, listen, I just want you to know I talked to this person, and you know, they agreed with what I already felt, which is that there's more that you need to say, and I want you to know that it's okay to do that. But then you gotta let go and let it happen naturally. I mean, forcing that can be bad. All right, Mickey? What I'll do, actually, I'm going to end that reading in a slightly different way. I'm just going to grab one of these. These are the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. These are the cards I was kind of playing with when the chat first started up. I'm going to pull one, and basically this is your message, Mickey, about what's the motivation here with Zach? Without revealing too much, because it is important, you know, just from a perspective of privacy and autonomy, he should be allowed to reveal how he feels on his own time. But if I can peek in and just kind of get a sense of the shade of his feelings, let's see what that is. What we have is Mars in Pisces. Mars in Pisces, okay? What is going on inside of him is Mars in Pisces. I would say that there's a sense of anxiety that is real. There's a sense of anxiety in Zach that needs to be addressed. Okay, and that can absolutely be the source of his fear. That fear is drawn by anxiety. All right. Okay, so where is the list now? The list just is just for those who are jumping on is closed. I just have a couple more people I'm going to be doing before we pack it in for the night. Okay, this is the new list. Just a couple quickies. KH, hello, if you're still in the room, let me know. And we'll go from there. Where is... Okay, one more time, KH, if you're still in the room. Okay, there you are. Okay, great. Oh boy, how does mom feel about the marriage proposal? Okay, yep. Okay. Alrighty. So, this is a heavy question. Whenever you use the word mom and marriage in the same sentence, it should scare everybody in the room. Alright, here you go. You sure you want to know? Alright. Okay. What we have is the Wise One. In this particular deck, again, this is the Terror of the Abyss by Anna Torian. Anna made some personal decisions in the deck with respect to the naming convention in some of the majors, and so she changed it to the Wise One, which I kind of like. Anyway, so that said, this would be like the mom. Let me zoom in on it a little further. You've got some people sitting around a fire. Like I could definitely see this as being you and the fiance, or if you accepted, and the mom. I get the sort of energy at first. It was kind of, playfully. I mean this playfully, but kind of like the lecture. I don't know about your family, but I know in some families there's this, there's like the lecturer, like, oh, you two want to get married, well, sit down and let me tell you about all the rules and all the this and all the that and all the so on, and why it's a bad idea and why that's a bad person and why that's a whatever. But so I got kind of like this, just that sort of vibe about the person wanting to make sure everybody knows how much they know. Okay, the Eight of Cups emotionally is an idea of don't care. Don't care. Like, and not don't care from the perspective of I'm the kind of person that doesn't care. Don't care from the perspective of I have better things to worry about. Now I'm not saying that's your mom's opinion. I'm going to get there in a minute. And I'm going to interpret this as a sentence. And then we have the world, the universe. You know, basically the last card of the tarot, which is the next step. It's the card of the ending / beginning of something new and great. But it's also part of that cycle. That's why there's the snake eating its own tail, which is typically seen as the Ouroboros, typically seen around the planet Earth. I like this infinity kind of interpretation with the eye and the baby being born. Beautiful. So basically what we have here is a don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. Your mom's feelings seems like they're let's just actually take a look before I jump on that, because I'm getting one of two kind of vibes. The one vibe is it's not a big deal, and the other vibe that I'm getting is the disregard. What's another word for that? Indifference. You know, indifference is not the same as don't care. Indifference is real. Indifference is like can almost be weaponized. You know, so you have to kind of look at the difference between I don't care, no big deal, or I'm indifferent to it. Hate is not the opposite of love. Indifference is the opposite of love. Indifference is the opposite of hate. So, that said, to recap, let's go ahead and zoom on that there. To recap, there's this sense of sort of a disregard, this sense of the lecturer, controller, and the idea of the rebirth into a new. And so ultimately, the message here is, in the end, it's going to work out the way it's supposed to anyway. This cycle cannot. You may be able to jump around it, but you're going to make this motion no matter what, and we all are. So, be comforted in that. And the idea of the sort of the control thing and the lecturing and the mom thing, like, it's going to happen. It's okay. And with respect to this is kind of the question that I have, and I'm just going to throw a couple things here. Does she not care, or is it straight up indifference? This is different here. This is almost the card of charity. Yeah, she feels superior. Your mother feels superior. And it's going to be okay. It's ultimately they're just words. I know you want her to accept, and I'm not saying that she doesn't, but there seems to be this sort of luxury vibe, and she feels superior. Yeah, so that's all right. Okay, let's see here. Just last two, and then I've got to run. I'm sorry. Let's see. Let me just jump to the last list here. Okay. All right. Okay, Jasmine, if you're still in the room, say hey. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for popping in. And I plan on expanding the channel in a lot of ways. Obviously, expanding the amount of streams, putting up other content related to interviews, educational content as well. Hello, Jasmine. Okay. Are Edgar's feelings toward me real? Will he decide to pursue a real commitment with me? Okay. Gemini and Libra. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Jasmine. Let's take a look. Okay, I'm going to do a two-prong kind of thing with this as well. I'm going to, I'll use these cards here, which again, this is the Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Torian. It is a Rider-Waite Smith-based system. So basically that means it's hermetic in nature. Okay, and this is it's an astrological oracle that I like to use as well for this type of thing. So let's get these going here. Okay. You're not kidding. They really, really are something. This is, I don't know, 30-some years of working with tarot. Is I'm so enamored by the artwork in this deck, I can't even. Wait till you actually see the cards. I recommend highly that you look it up. Anatorian. And the deck is called the Tarot of the Abyss. Anyway, so in this case... This is an astrology-based oracle that basically is a representation of the sign and planet connections, and it's a really good way to kind of get a broad shape of the emotions, the broad silhouette of the situation. These are a little chunky. And so they're hard to shuffle. Sorry. These are a pain in the butt to shuffle, but I love them. Okay. So, generosity is the card. Actually, let me zoom in on that for you, sorry. Okay. And I'll explain my vibe in a moment. Okay. I'm feeling good on that. Okay. Alrighty. So, the question is, are his feelings real? Real commitment. The first card that comes up is the Eight of Swords. Now, the 8 is not always necessarily the best number with respect to love readings, but there is good news in this card. The woman is bound, and she's surrounded in swords. But the lesson, if you notice, it's coming undone. She's not tightly wound up. At any point, this can all unwind and she can be completely free and open. But right now, the state of this situation is wound. I don't believe this is you. This is Edgar. He is feeling or being or intellectually, mentally, is in a state of not wanting to communicate. Why, we'll get to in a second. Okay, the Four of Swords is the card of the battle being over. The fight is over. There's peace in that. There is reconciliation in that. The swords are laid at the wall, right? And then here you have the Tower, which is within respect to the tarot. There's only a couple of cards in the deck that can really intrinsically, ultimately be called a negative card. The Three of Swords comes to mind, you know, and some others. But the Tower is one of those cards. But basically what we have here in her symbolism, which I kind of really like, you have a house built in a tree over a precipice, and it's kind of all falling apart. The ground's falling out from under, and you know, there's lightning. The people are, you know, not really looking forward to their immediate future. And so there is sort of like this kind of like overall another way that you could look at the Four of Swords. Not only is the battle over, but another way to look at it is that they've stopped fighting. Lack of enthusiasm is one example. Like, things are kind of fine the way they are, so there's no reason to kind of do anything further. The Eight of Swords is in this state of sort of like being bound up and not really being in a state of wanting to communicate, which is unfortunate for you. And the Tower just means not really necessarily a good thing. The overall energy here, why this came up as generosity is an interesting question that I have. Oh, I know. That's this deck is so intuitively articulate that I have no words, really. Why is generosity coming up, Jasmine? What is it like? Is this sort of like forgive me, like he's not really in it? Like, it's kind of like he's doesn't want to hurt you. I don't know. I haven't gotten too far into the relationship of the reading. Like, I'm just curious why that happens to be the sort of shade of the situation, you know? Is that you? But I don't get that vibe. I just, yeah, so I know that doesn't really, that's not really the most positive reading I've given today. But you know, I mean, it's what I saw, it's what I felt. But yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Okay, yeah, well, yep. I'm going to put this back in order. I mean, yeah, that's totally the Four of Swords, which is sort of like the, you know, like, not, you know, it's not interested, like, not interested, like, has lost interest. That's more appropriate. Lost interest, like, move, you know, and you know, the Tower, just the Tower's obvious. The Tower is the answer to the question. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry, I know that's never fun. Although, I mean, sometimes it's okay. It's like, all right, move on. It's not the right one. Whatever. Take what you had. Look at it for what it was. What it is. Not try to make it with something it isn't. And go from there. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, last one. Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting, Jasmine. That's the vibe I'm getting. Is that he's sort of, and that's selfish behavior. That's just selfish. Um, okay. All right, let's do this just to end the night, just for fun. I'm just gonna pull out my traditional. Well, yeah, that's why would he tell you that he has feelings for you? Um, you know, men suck. Men suck. And it depends upon, you know, what are the intents in the words? Like, is the intent to communicate or manipulate? So, all right. And just to remind anybody, if you'd like to, I really would appreciate if you would support what I'm doing here, either with a little donation or please leave a comment and like the video. That little gesture of liking the video and leaving a comment speaks right to the Google algorithm and says, hey, this is something. So please, you know, let them know. I appreciate that. Okay. And Eliza? Okay. Okay. Before the end of the month of December 2022. Okay. This is my little mini rider weight. This is great. I usually kept it in my glove compartment. Sort of to have something, you know, you never know when you need a deck quick. And this really came in handy for that. It's nice and small, easy to manage. And you never know when you're out and about where you're going to have the opportunity to actually do the reading. And so it's sort of nice to have one that's small enough that you can like throw one together at like a Dunkin' Donuts table, you know, like anywhere. It's really nice without having to rely on like an app or some kind of like, you know, I don't know. Okay. As a general yes or no question, will they return before the end of the month of December 2022? I get the sensation of yes, that is a yes. The aces are very iconic of the element. The pentacle is the element of earth, which is physical manifestation. So I see this as being a card of physically manifesting something. And your question was, will they come back to me? So I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, so I would say end of September and oops, okay. End of September and let me see if I can give you an exact date. waxing moon, September. Let me take a look at something here. Let me just get the moon phases in September of this year. Hang on a sec. Let's see, moon phase. September 2022. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So sometime before the 16th of September. Yep. Before the 16th of September. That's the that's the vibe. Alrighty. Listen, this was a lot of fun. This was a great way to kind of just test out a few things as I begin to build up the channel here. Work out some of the kinks. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to go. You know, my goal is to do on-air readings, like call-in. I have a couple of ideas on how to do that. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work out, like, technologically. Like, if it's going to lag the stream or even work or not. And so... let me put this here. Eliza, well, that's an interesting question. Will he approach me by himself and confess his feelings? So, okay, well, let's see. All right, well, that's a good answer. There it is. Alrighty. Listen, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate everyone jumping on and joining me for an hour and change to work out some of the kinks here and get the channel going. I really appreciate it. I plan on doing a lot of, it's just sort of in my nature, like a random live streams. I do plan on doing regular live streams, at least an hour or two every night, and several hours most nights. And then I plan on putting up a lot of static content related to signs for the week, signs for the month, and things along those lines on a more general basis. And then obviously to build up you know, the community here as well. So I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody who joined me tonight. And keep in mind, if you have any additional questions or anything else, you can contact me either live stream here, or there's a link in the description with ways that you can book a reading through, it's a little form that I use in the Google Forms. It's, you know, that'll just shoot right to my email. safe, secure. There's no financial information or anything like that. It's just like, what's your name, what's your birthday, how do I get a hold of you? That's it. And all right, so thank you so much. Have a great evening, and I will hopefully see everybody very soon. Have a good night.